Fun fact, I started this podcast without turning my microphone on. That's like rookie move, I think, number 1. But here we are. Alrighty, so welcome everybody to Wellth Body Radio, the premier podcast for self-developing. That's right, developing. Because this is where wishful thinking meets the ground. Meets the ground or hits the ground? Hits the ground and becomes action. Wishful thinking meets action. It's all the same, all together. It's fine. Moving along. This might be a tough podcast to get through. So I am one of those people, and I'm sure you're possibly one of those people too, where wishful thinking is kind of been your blueprint for your life, for things happening to you, where you've literally spent every birthday wish, every 11th wish, like every shooting star, every 4-leaf clover, everything that's lucky, you spent that wishing for one thing. For myself, it was always weight loss or to, become somebody else so that I could find love and somebody would love me because I didn't think I was lovable. But that's a whole podcast for a whole different day. That's not what we're getting into right now. Right now, what we're getting into is how do you change that wishful thinking into action so that your life can actually manifest into that. Because manifesting is something else too that people think that like, oh, I'm just gonna hum over it, like, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I and like that'll happen. No, that's just another form of wishful thinking if you don't actually put action behind it. So today we're going to be talking about journaling, and I swear every influencer and their dog right now is journaling. It's part of their AM routine. They got their coffee and their journal and blah, blah, blah. And yes, it is super trendy, but regardless of that, whether it's for show, sometimes it can feel like it's for show, but it really does serve a purpose if you do it properly and you really do apply it. So that's kind of what journaling I'm going to talk about today, is how to actually apply it, because I genuinely believe in the power of journaling. And all of my family members and best friends can attest that I am a journaling advocate. So why does journaling work? Let's start there. It pulls the emotional, irrational thoughts out of your head and makes them physical, allowing you to respond appropriately. So what does that mean? For me, when I went through my eating disorder and my self-confidence issues, just not knowing who I was as a person, constantly people-pleasing, I had so many thoughts, so much back and forth dialogue of this is what you should do, or these people are thinking about you. If I went to the gym, it was if I was doing squats, all these people behind me were staring at me. It was the whole gym stopped and watched me. Obviously that didn't happen. I hate to break it to myself. I'm not the center of everybody's world. But that is kind of where my train of thought always led me, was that there was just so much going on, so much anxiety, so many stories that I'd made up and made it into beliefs and rules that I had to untangle them. So the best way that I found to do that was literally to put them out on paper, because sometimes when you're in your head, irrational thoughts can seem really legit. And then when you put them on paper and you read something almost third party, you're that's dumb. That makes no sense. Why would I ever believe this? And again, it allows you, a third-party person, to audit these awful thoughts or these random thoughts or these irrational thoughts in your head and go, that makes no sense. I'm going to act like this, or I'm going to think this instead. So that's how journaling can help you. And right off the bat, it allows you, again, to act appropriately, to think appropriately, to respond appropriately, to ask the right questions. It also can help you organize and focus past, present, and future situations. So a lot of depression comes from focusing on past situations that you can't change, and a lot of anxiety comes from future situations that you don't know what's happening. It's an unknown or out of your control, and a lot of anxiety comes from there. So being able to write down what has happened in your past, the facts of it, who you are in the present, what you'd want to do in the future. Just writing all of these things out can help you organize things better rather than it being like a mishmash shamble in your brain. And what this can do is create more of a coherent narrative, which again means untangling irrational false things from truth or facts. So this is something that my therapist always used to ask me, like when I describe her situation, she's like, how much of that is true? What are the facts? And then I'd be like, okay, well, maybe nobody was looking at me because I'm not the sun. I'm not the center of everybody's world. And she's like, okay, that's a fact. And then like, how did you feel? I'd be like, well, I felt anxiety. She's like, okay, based on what? I'm like, based on everyone looking at me. She's like, but that didn't happen. And I was like, okay, so then what's your anxiety based in? Not real things. Okay, we can backtrack here. We can kind of figure this out. So again, it creates a coherent narrative. It's going from irrational thinking to a logical line of thinking. The other thing that journaling can help with is a lot of people with trauma have memory like blackouts. That's something that I definitely experienced when a lot of things were about my body. I have very vivid memories about my body, but not a lot of memories about like friends or family or vacations and stuff like that. My mom would always be like, do you remember this? I'm like, no, but I remember that I was wearing this like tankini with a black upper. It was split down the middle, white on one half, blue on the other. And my little love handles hung out over my shorts that were too tight because I bought them in a size small because I thought I would starve myself enough that I would lose weight to fit into them. And I remember exactly how I felt in that moment, but no, I don't remember the dolphin experience with the family. I have no memory. So that's really sad. So having these trauma blackout memory like bits in your brain, writing can really help with recouping your memory and being like present. So the art of like recording and the act of recording, processing, reflecting, all of that helps improve your memory. It's kind of like studying. When you used to study for an exam, you'd write things out, cover it, try to remember, okay, what did you remember? What did you not? What I didn't remember, rewrite it out, cover it. And like just that recollection and the physical aspect of writing all helps improve memory. During these like memory recollections, my other favorite thing that I started doing was re-recording memories. So not necessarily like making up a completely different scenario and living in La La Land, but when you have a situation that causes you a lot of pain to remember, one of the best things you can do is rewrite the pain that you feel, or rewrite the situation, or rewrite the outcome. And so what I mean by that is to change how you perceive an experience to the emotional response that you have from it. So let's say in high school, I used to have this friend who was skinnier than me, more sexy than I was. Like she was very attractive, very flamboyant with the guys. And I always felt like everybody chose her over me. So I have a lot of pain when it comes to having girlfriends. I always like compare myself. I always think that any interaction with a male around, a guy around, is that they always will focus on the other girl versus me, because that is my perceived reality. That is like all the memories that I have built up in my brain. So instead, what I've done is gone back and rewrote some of these like core memories that I have of like, okay, like so-and-so said hi to me, like they made eye contact with me, I felt this when that happened, like it was a group thing, like I was not excluded, and like rewrote probably a lot of the anxiety and like fake narrative that I made up into probably what was actually true, right? And then rewrote like that it was a positive experience. So sometimes that can be really, really helpful. And then again, it can help you going into future situations and how you react and how you like, because every time you react to something, like I said in the last podcast, is an accumulation of everything from your past. So if you're able to change little tidbits from your past, how you react in the future is going to be much more positive and align with what you're trying to achieve. So lastly, you can rewire your brain to cultivate more gratitude. So everybody talks about gratitude, but yeah, it's another trigger word, another trendy thing. But it really does make a difference. I've been asked multiple times, like, Alicia, why are you so positive all the time? And it's really because I just see the good in every little thing. Like, I can find a silver lining in a bag of dog shit, like, honestly. It's one of the best qualities about me is that I can always find the good. And this just comes from wiring your brain to see the good. A lot of people you'll notice that are like have bad luck, quote unquote, are people that just wire the brain to see negative and to seek out negative. They don't actually have bad luck. They're literally doing it to themselves. And the people reverse, like that have really, really good luck, are just people that always see opportunity or see good things happening for themselves. And they manifest it through micro actions, through little like thought processes in their head, putting themselves in situations that would, have good things happen to them. That's literally just rewiring your brain to see the good versus the bad. And it's really, really easy, I should note, to see the bad because that is how human brains are wired. Like, if we didn't live in the comfortableness of our homes with nice clothes, and we lived out in this shitty ass weather in the cold, and having to survive off the land, and things were going bump in the night and trying to eat us, we would need to look out for the negative, like the bad things that are always, we'd have to anticipate that in order to survive. So that's what your ancestors have done for a really, really long time, is always anticipate the bad, and that yields survival. Nowadays, we really don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to anticipate the bad to survive. Our survival rate's pretty high. We're pretty comfortable in our living. So rewiring your brain to see the good actually, I think, would improve your life and all that jazz. So that is the sciencey stuff behind why journaling works. So how do we put all that into action? How have I put that into action to yield results that I absolutely love about my life now? Okay, let's go over. I'm going to talk about this from my point of view, my experience. So if this doesn't work for you, so sorry. If it does, yay. But I'm going to be talking about from my side of things and sprinkling in some actionable steps that will help you become a journaler. So to start off with, journaling has definitely been something that has been like touch and go for me for many, many years. Somebody that I wanted to be somebody that journaled. I wanted to be that person, but it was like really painful to go into journaling. Like, writing out my gratitude list was fine, whatever. But then like journaling like fully in depth was so uncomfortable because I had so much like trauma and like self-doubt and anxiety to like work through that I like had to take big breaks from my journaling in order to like heal, get into a place where I could handle that emotion and then come back to it. So if journaling for you is like that, like if you go 6 months between journal entries, that's fine. I've totally been there. But the point is that like you go back, right? So we have to try and we have to go back to the practice and practice and practice and practice. So I really do believe that energy is transferal. So when we have toxic energy built up in our bodies, that manifests into disease and into mental health issues and stuff like that. Again, we rewire our brain to see negative things, and then our life starts impacting us externally, and that becomes a confirmation bias, and like it can just be a whole whirlwind of awful. So we need to move that toxic energy out of the body. So whether that's going to be through writing, speaking, journaling, dancing, yoga, whatever, we need to flow out. When I was really uncomfortable with my body, all of these bodily things that moved energy out for me didn't feel good. It just made me more aware of how much I hated my body. So not great. But that's why journaling really, really was awesome. It was great because it allowed me the space to move that energy out in a safe place where I didn't feel gross about my body. So yeah. Anyway, moving along. Okay, so like I said, journaling has been a game of tag for me for many, many years, touch and go, but that still served a purpose. And being consistently inconsistent, I still made progress. I showed up very sporadically. And a lot of people would say that like, you have to be consistent. You have to make a schedule, be disciplined. Discipline is how you yield things in life. All that is true. if it doesn't cause you more harm than good, right? Like if that causes you more pain, it makes journaling a practice that is icky for you, that causes more anxiety, like that is not good. So yes, eventually you have to build up your tolerance for going deeper within yourself, for writing a little longer, writing more often. But again, it's a practice thing. Practice makes progress. So however that progress looks to you, go for it. But you have to keep showing up. And the point is that I never stopped showing up, and now I'm able to journal every single day, every morning, with a cup of coffee, with a candle lit, in the sun rising, because it's dark here forever. And so as the sun comes up, it's actually quite nice. I shouldn't complain. Yeah. Anyway, so how often should you journal, and for how long? So whenever you feel called to, and whenever you can push yourself. So like I said, like pushing your tolerance for writing an extra minute or two, an extra sentence or two, an extra like period during the week, right? So maybe you write out your gratitude list on Mondays, and then eventually that becomes a routine. And then on Thursdays, you decide, I'm going to write how my week is going and if I need to change anything going into the weekend. And that's kind of been like your 2-day week schedule. And you kind of just build on that. And like I said, whenever you feel called to, so sometimes that's going to be like, right now I don't want to write, fine. But the next day you might get up and be like, I am overwhelmed, I need this. Don't restrict yourself and be like, well, I already journaled this week, or I said I wasn't going to, or I don't have time. Like if you feel really internally to get something out of your system, do it. Because otherwise you just push it down, you just bury it, and then it becomes much, much harder to deal with that later. So whenever you feel called to, and push yourself in a safe manner. There has definitely been times where I've written 2 sentences and been like, that's enough, I hate this, and like slam my book shut. And then there's other times where I've done it for an hour and a half and the whole morning is gone and it just feels so therapeutic. But I'm like, that was a lot. Like I obviously had a lot to say. And speaking of being therapeutic, that's what journaling has been for me. When I've been in a really dark place, because I spent a lot of my healing journey alone, because I didn't have that connection with anybody to talk to about what I was going through, my journal kind of became my safe place. So the days that I didn't have my therapist to talk to, or after when I was done working with her, it was like, I still have feelings, emotions, experiences that I'm going through. What do I do? Like, again, I can't keep all this toxic energy built up. So my journal was my person. It was somebody that I could talk to. It was also a really safe place for me to get angry at people. So this is for everybody that hates confrontation. Get yourself a journal. It's just, again, like I said, angry at people. So when I was frustrated at myself, at situations, at others, and I didn't want to scream, I didn't want to fight, it allowed me to like write down what I was feeling and work through those emotions in a safe place until I reached a space of peace or like contentment at the very least, or a place where I could be like, okay, this keeps coming up. I keep being angry about these same things. I am reaching this place of like contentment, okay, but in order for this to not happen again, I'm going to need to talk to this person about this, this, and this. And then over time, I just worked up the courage to do so, because you can have dialogue with somebody in a journal and then practice what you would like to say, so that when that conversation does move face to face, you're going to probably have a lot of emotions, a lot of anxiety, lots going to come up, but you can go back to those cued sentences, the things that you are feeling, the things that you know you want to talk about. You can have the piece of paper with you in front of you, and then go from there and practice having this confrontation, these moments of easing the tension, like having, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, I digress. Okay, so like I said, this journal is a safe place to put anything you need to in there. And this is really where I was allowed to be extremely raw and honest with my own bullshit. I was able to call myself out on a lot of stuff, which I found really helpful, because I think a lot of journaling people think is like, how was your day today? And like, what were you good at? And what are you grateful for? But like, I wrote from a place of like, you lied to yourself. You said you were going to do one thing and you didn't. It's like, but why did you lie? And then write out why you lied. Or why did you get anxious about this? Or what caused you to back out from this? Do you want to have integrity? And just like asking myself these like really intrusive, like blunt questions. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know. And then I'd have to figure out an answer. And then once I figured out that answer, you just become so honest and real with yourself. That confidence starts to build. And like I said, because I came from a perfectionist mindset, I never had that confidence. And so telling somebody else like my mistakes, where I fail, like literally felt like punching myself in the gut. The whole sky was falling. The world, like the floor couldn't open up fast enough to swallow me up. I just wasn't able to own my stuff. My failures were just too personal. They were too secretive because I was trying so hard to be perfect, or at least to stay the same, so I didn't come off like I was trying. Really weird. But if you relate to this, I totally feel you. It's so uncomfortable living in that mindset. But again, like I said, with journaling, I could just say, hey, I ate this during a binge. It was triggered by this. And then own up to the fact that I didn't act appropriately. Like I didn't act in the way that made myself proud. So that was really, like I said, because trying to be perfect and this like fake reality that you've made up, you really don't have, even if you have a therapist, like my therapist, sometimes I lied to her because I wanted her to think that I was being perfect all the time. Like, yes, I'm overcoming this. Yes, I did that homework. Yes, no, I didn't binge when that happened. Not at all. Like I did what you told me to do. Okay, well, we're fudging a lie here, which is not helping anybody. First of all, it doesn't allow her to do her job and it doesn't allow me to grow or improve. But in my journal, I can be like, okay, I told somebody this, but this is actually what happened. Why did I feel like I couldn't be honest? Or why did I feel like I had to lie to be perfect or perceived as perfect? And then I could go back down that rabbit hole, reverse engineer, find the root cause, whatever you want to call it, so that I could eventually figure out the underlying belief that I was holding on to and undo that. And then it goes back to the beginning, how you can untangle your like false reality from actual reality. Like I said, untangle them and literally just set yourself free. Allow your mind to just be at ease with what's actually true rather than being tormented between this fake reality and this real reality. So, does journaling have impact over time if you're not consistent? Like I said, yes, obviously, that's what I believe. That's what we've talked about. I suggest always leaving your journal in a place where you can visually see it. So you're reminding yourself to journal. Write it down in like your agenda. That's what I used to do. I used to put it in like a paper copy or even in my phone sometimes and write down like spend 20 minutes journaling. Half the time I just would forget about that too and skip over it. But then when I did go into my phone, it was like, oh shoot, I forgot to do that. And again, okay, maybe I should do it right now. And it's just more often than not, you're going to see your journal or see that you should be journaling or having some kind of practice. And then you're more likely or more inclined to go and journal rather than if you put it on your bookshelf and you just say like, I will remember because I want this. That's not going to happen. That's just not the reality. That's not the reality. You can want things as much as you can want things. It ain't going to happen for you. So make it visible. I also found that when I was really honest, I needed breaks because it was overwhelming with how imperfect I was. So really watch that you're not forcing yourself to be perfect in your journal or say the right things to yourself. Really, really get honest and say all the imperfect things and all the things that feel gross and icky. Really, really get down and dirty with yourself, okay? And the more that I became more consistent as I began to see the positivity that was coming from my journaling. So as my mindset changed, as my actions changed, the emotional responses, when I wouldn't get triggered by something or a positive cue would come out from one of my journaling sessions, that's when I became consistent. And I think that's with anything. When you start to make more money, you want to work more. When you want, and you to love your job. When you start to lose weight and you actually start to see how your clothes fit differently, you want to work out more. There's all these things when you finally seem to like reap the benefits of all the effort you're sowing. Like you're like, yeah, I want to do that more. And that's kind of what it became. So when I would spend those like 6-month blocks or 3-month blocks or monthly blocks of like not journaling and then coming back to it and then going away from it, like I wasn't seeing the progress, but I didn't shame myself for that time that I needed to heal from what I was going through or finding out about myself. But as I healed and as I was able to be more present in my journaling and more consistent, I started to see the effects around me. And then I was like, okay, this actually works. And then I got into my journaling more and more and more. And so it just allow yourself again to go through this as slowly or as fast as you need to. There's absolutely no pressure or that you need to do it every morning with your coffee, with your dog, before your 8 a.m. walk and all that jazz. Like you don't need to do that. You're fine. Do it however feels good for you, okay? So now we're talked about journaling. Now we've talked about the benefits, how to get into it, how to show up in your journal. What do you even write about? And a lot of people will say, I don't know how to start. I just stare at the page and I stare and I stare and nothing happens. So one of the things that I suggest doing is a mind map. That's the best way to get personalized prompts for yourself. So in the middle of a page, write down, what are you trying to accomplish? So I'm trying to become a morning person. Write that in the middle of the page, circle it, and then put a bunch of lines out and write down the things that you need to do in order to accomplish that. So, and then from those things that you need to do, take those onto the next page and put like, okay, I need to wake up 20 minutes earlier. What would you do with that 20 minutes of extra time? I would do this, this, and this. And then write actions. And then write, how would that make me feel if I accomplish this? And then write out your feelings. And just start there. The other thing I would suggest doing if you're trying to change your mindset or like your emotional response to something, you could write down like in the middle, like, I don't want to hate my body anymore. And then just rapid fire, like things that come to your mind. So it could just be like fat, clothes don't fit, have no friends, boyfriend, sex life sucks, overeat, pressure from mom, like all this. I don't even know what else. But yeah, you get the drift. So, and then from there, write out, why do these things come out to my brain when I think about this? Okay. And then just write. And then write. So that's what I suggest doing is a mind map. That's a really easy one to get like multiple different prompts. And then you can use each one of those like rapid fire words or sentences as prompts for like multiple pages or journal entries. From there, you can build onto those prompts. Yeah, I said all that. I'm just reading from my page right now. So yes, this is what we did. Okay, so one of the best prompts that's really, really easy that always worked for me was what would be most helpful for today. That's what my therapist always used to ask me at the beginning of an appointment with her. And it was like, what would be most helpful for today? And it's just like, I just need to talk about this, or I need to do this, but I'm scared of this. And we would just talk about it. And that's it. And you just write down how you're feeling surrounding what you need for that day. You could also write a list of successes or failures of the week as like a past weekly reflection. These really I like the fact of doing both. So reinforces like having pride within yourself, confidence in your actions, getting that dopamine hit from like doing good. And then writing down your failures also establishes like where you need to make change to keep progressing, so that you can add like the flip side to the failures to the successes, right? And then this also allows you to be able to navigate your future situations. And so that when you do get into these like quote unquote failure situations, you know, okay, I need to do this if I don't want to be a failure here. I need to act like this, say this, do this. And then you're already like premeditated your successes rather than just showing up and possibly having a failure, right? No plan is a plan to fail. So we don't want to do that. So that's why we write down your failures. And again, because it's a safe place, as a journal that nobody sees, get really honest with what those failures were and why they happen, and then what you should do to change them. And then I always suggest at the end is just like writing your feelings surrounding these, like good or bad, like how did this failure make you feel? Because like we are emotional creatures. So the more often that you can really tie down why you did this and how you felt, chances are you're not going to want to feel that way, and you're able to move away from it. So, and then like the same goes for feeling good. Like you want to feel good. People want to do things that feel nice or make them feel nice. So that's what I suggest doing with that. And one of my other favorite journaling things is writing a letter to your future self. So just thanking yourself for putting in all the challenging work, laying out all the obstacles that you faced and then you overcame, describe how incredible your life is, tell yourself again like how proud you are, and writing a letter to your future self, your ideal self, like the you that overcame all of the troubles that you've ever faced or are facing or will face or think that you're going to face, like all of these things, and then being like, okay, I did all this. And like, it just makes it seem very real that like you did that. You were strong enough. You overcame it. Like nobody else like can do or live this life for you. Like it's all you. You. Okay. So that's why I really like writing a letter to your future self, because it really connects the dots that like the actions you're doing today are going to yield a future self. And if you don't want your future self to be the same as you are today, you have to change. So if your future self looks like XYZ, then you need to do XYZ to get there. So really making your future self your present self, those feelings, those emotions internally right now, really does yield a lot of change, or a lot of like, at least hope. I think that was one of the big things back when I journaled a few years ago, just being in the pits of things. It just allowed me a lot of hope, because I'm like, I have these moments of clarity of like where I know I am, where I think I could be, where I know I could be. Like, I am not this person with the eating disorder, but like I'm still acting this way. I'm still doing these things, and like it was really troubling. But then like I'd have these moments of like, I can see me, like my future self, like I'm doing things that I would never do, like, 3 years prior to that. So it was like this hope that I could like hang on to and just like manifest. And again, the actions that go with it, when I laid out, these are the obstacles that are plaguing me now that I'm overcoming to yield my future self. And it was like, okay, I can do this. I've just laid out the plan. So let's do it. Okay. So that's one of my favorite ones there. And honestly, if none of these examples are resonating with you, you still need more directions. You're just overwhelmed by like the blankness of a page, buy a journal that has prompts in it. So easy. Go on to Indigo, like chaptersindigo.com, and then type in journal with prompts. And then you have to click the little box that filters out things, and it says paperback. Otherwise, you're going to get like a bunch of stuff that's like all like digital things, and I don't know anything about that. So just click the filter that says paperbacks, and then it's going to bring up like over 300 journals with different prompts. You have things like decluttering your mind, mindful eating, gratitude journals, letters to your future husband journals, like a 5-minute self-love. Like they have everything for journaling. Any mindset that you want to put yourself in, they have. So the point of this all that I'm trying to make is that this is a ritual worth the time. My camera's dying. This better not die. It's worth the investment into yourself. All you have to do is get away from the distractions and focus on yourself. Allow all of these feelings to pass through you. There will be a magical point where your memory no longer haunts you, the situation no longer triggers you, you see joy in the little moments during the day. Like all of that can happen through the practice of journaling. Journaling is like, I always thought of it as like I'm going to see my therapist, like my teacher, and then like journaling is my homework afterwards. And it's that homework, that tediousness of it that really does help you learn the lessons, learn how to work through it, and propel yourself forward. Journaling is a part of a practice that allows me to cultivate change, to put thoughts and actions and desires all together into real time. Not make-believe, not my wishful thinking self, like real time, living my life. Journaling, honestly, I believe is life changing. And it's not some trendy thing on Instagram. It's not something that has to be perfect and curated. Like, you just have to do it. And it's scary and it's uncomfortable, and you have to put yourself in situations where it's overwhelming and you're honest and you have to take responsibility for those situations. But that's the nature of the beast. And in order to come over it, to overcome it, you have to go through it. Please don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. Don't hesitate to reach out to me over social media. Let me know how this podcast made you feel, how this conversation landed for you. If you're like, I agree with you on this, I don't agree with you on this. If you need help with certain journaling prompts, if you journaled and it's super scary and you're like, I'm overwhelmed, please reach out to me, because I don't want you to be alone in those situations. And keep practicing, okay? Journaling is about practice. It's a progression that cannot happen without effort. So please put in the effort, and I promise you will yield results. Okay? So don't forget to show up in the world a little bit more curious, a little bit more intentional, and a lot more loving. And this definitely applies when you're in your journal. Okay? All right. Bye. Okay, I was hoping that by the time you guys saw this, there would be like some beautiful backdrop stuff, and I'm not driving in this, so this is what you get. You get me and you get this wall. Congrats. I didn't turn this mic on.